Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Mac Yak number 119.
Hello.
Hello.
Nothing like your local and not so local crazy Mac guys coming together and talking about Mac crap. or lack thereof.
Mac crap. Lack thereof is more like it.
That's the best intro you've ever done, Mike.
Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
I like it.
So, how is everybody doing on this wonderful Thursday evening?
Friday morning.
Oh, it's Thursday. Oh.
Well, I should say Thursday evening for those of us in the States. Those of us who are not in the States, it's Friday. So,
even those in the States sometimes forget it's Thursday.
yeah.
which is why there is only 6 people on the show tonight.
Oh, what a shame.
Oh. But that's okay. We don't really have a lot of subjects this evening, so we're just going to kind of, we're just going to kind of BS it tonight. So,
What have you been up to?
From what we usually do?
Well, we're going to do it a little more. We're just going to have a free-for-all. What the hell?
Just so that everybody's prepared, we are having an even quack round, but it's all going to be chat-driven. So start thinking of some good even quacks.
Yeah, don't post them now because they'll be gone by the time we try to see them.
Yeah, hang on to them. Or put them in the Discord channel or something. But I was rescuing a hard drive earlier, so I was able to rattle the life out of a 40 megabyte Quantum SCSI hard drive, and it worked enough for me to image it. So yay!
May I
Are you
ask
gonna
where
keep
the
using
where the drive came from?
I was from a Macintosh SE.
Excellent.
And it was system 6.07 on it. And there's some personal files on there, but there's a lot of cool desk accessories and stuff that I didn't necessarily find on Macintosh Garden on first look. So it'll be interesting to see if I could add some of those.
And were you able to ascertain when the last file was edited, when that was last used?
There were dates of 2004.
Wow.
And then there were dates of 1998. So it seems like it was at a doctor's office and someone was actually using it up until the late 90s. And then it looks like their kid got a hold of the computer, or somebody's kid did, because there were spreadsheets and spreadsheets of statistics for Pokemon card games. So it seems like it had a change in ownership, unless that doctor really got into Pokemon. But yeah, that's...
It sucks when that happens. Remember what, Mike, you might actually remember. Mike had this prototype iMac, right? He took the drive out, but it was wiped or reinstalled, or I don't know. So he sent it to me for data recovery, and it was scanning for 2-3 days straight, found a whole bunch of data, and I forgot what it was. It was every episode of The Simpsons ever.
It was Disney. I thought it was like Disney movies or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was something child-oriented, so...
We were looking for this prototype firmware or something, nothing. All gone.
That's what we get for open.
Yeah, I mean, I had to actually open the lid off of the disk. That was the first time I ever had to do that, and
You destroyed it.
Please, if you could see the sectors with your bare eyes, you're okay.
Yeah.
I mean, there are a lot of fixes for some of those really old ones that do involve opening them up, and you will get them going again. And of course, what I always say about that is, if it's enough to get the data off, then that's fine. I mean, if you never use the drive again, use a SCSI to SD or something instead, because I mean, it's all about just getting that data off, and then you can just throw the thing away.
No, I'm going to put it back in the computer and see how long it lasts.
Or
probably what I would do, to be honest with you.
Yeah, me too.
We're gonna start the timer. All right, so this is episode 119. So episode 119, I'm putting the hard drive back in the Macintosh SE. Let's see how long it lasts.
I actually got sent a computer relatively recently. Had one of these quantum hard drives in it, and it had the rubber bumper had gone all sticky. It was holding the head still. So anyhow, I sort of opened it up, got rid of the rubber from there, got the head moving, was able to image the drive, and contact the client. And I said, look, you'd be really pleased to know this driver managed to get all the data off it. And he said, oh, it's not mine. I don't really care about it.
All right.
Sweet.
I've got 2 old Quantum 730 meg, what are they, lightning drives? Is that what they call them? And they used to be our backups at work. And last time I tried to use them, they just would not spin up. And so somebody on, I think it was the 68K MLA, they're like, take it and rotate it real fast like this. Just take it and do that with it, like a few times. And I'll be darned if it didn't work. I mean, I was able to get everything off of them, and now they don't spin up again. But
this has been professional hard drive recovery by the Mac Yak crew.
Yeah, well, and it's okay that I do that to this one because this is dead. So
We just need Mike to develop his iHammer Pro a little quicker for those hard drives that really get stuck.
That's a pretty hard drive.
Yeah, it is. It is pretty.
How far does that head float above the platter? You can fit a slice of bread under there.
Yeah, the head, I believe. I don't think there's actually a head on the top of that, because there's nothing under that little lip. But there's a head in between. So who knows? As a cost-cutting thing, maybe the data is only it's only a 40 meg drive. So who knows at that point? But it's an older Quantum. It doesn't look like the one Bruce has. It has it all flat on the top.
It looks to me like it probably had. There was probably a version of this, like an 80 meg version, that probably had another platter on the top of that by the looks of it. Yeah.
Like all the replies, lick it.
Yeah, exactly. People were telling you all sorts of useful things. Big hammer, lick it, at you. Yeah. I did use the air duster to dust all the air out of it before I closed it back up. I'm sure that helped.
15, maybe 20 years ago, this service provider I was working at, we got a bunch of dead hard drives, and we're like, oh, let's open it up and see what it looks like on the inside when it spins up. So we took the lid off, put on the power. Oh, nice. And then we realized if you take a screwdriver and you touch it lightly, you can draw pretty lines on it. That worked really well until it went bang. And there were 5 million pieces of hard drive flying everywhere. I never do that.
Hope you had glasses on.
I did.
Boom.
8-inch hard drive?
I wonder what that sounds like, a hard drive exploding in full rotational speed.
It's
I'm
pretty
sure
creepy.
there's plenty of YouTube videos about that.
Yeah.
This was actually a pretty quiet drive. I was going to do a goofy ASMR like recording of it and put it on the YouTubes, but no, it was pretty quiet. I couldn't even...
I still think we should do an ASMR Mac Yak.
Let's not.
No.
Let's please not.
It's just
We'll get 10 minutes in and I'll be like, I hate this.
It's going to be a SCSI hard drive an inch away from the microphone. Nobody will be able to hear anything else.
Oh my god.
Well, you need to start preparing. It's May already. You need to start preparing for your New Year's or Christmas stream. So might as well use that hard drive.
It'll be dead by then, don't worry.
I don't know. It might
Sure
surprise you.
about
Or no.
We'll see. It wasn't even stuck to the plastic. That plastic didn't even seem like it was rubbery either. I just nudged it and it was fine. So,
Like, Steve, you have given me a new lease on life. I will serve you forever.
all my 40 megabytes are up for you.
Oh my gosh.
All right. Have we got topics?
Yeah, we got topics.
Saturday is Jay's birthday. That's a
wow.
news item.
Happy birthday, Jay.
I didn't realize that was Saturday already.
So,
That's all right. Grudy forgot today was Thursday. So
Right. You gotta stop counting birthdays
So
after
Jay
you
turns
turn
50
22
on
or
Saturday.
something.
Wish Jay happy birthday, everybody.
Happy 80th, Jay.
Oh, it's
Thank
already
you.
in my calendar. How about that?
What?
Your birthday is already in my calendar. I must have put it in last year.
That's when
So
you delete
is it
the
a
website
significant
a few hours
birthday,
and-
Jay, or what?
Oh, you missed the Mac Yak where we bombarded him with the surprise happy birthday sing along, and his face got beat red. It was great.
It was embarrassment for all of you.
Sure it was.
I don't think I was on that one.
So are we ready? Are we ready to bullshit our way through this?
Yeah,
No.
let's give it a
I
shot.
think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're
All right.
going to start with everybody's favorite topic tonight. What is RISC? Is it better than CISC? Why did Apple go from CISC to RISC to CISC to RISC? Say that 5 more times.
No.
I'm
Does
just
it
gonna lean
really?
back.
Does
and,
it really mean anything
learn.
to you? And should you really give a crap? I don't know, but Bruce is going to tell us.
Okay, kiddies, take a seat. Let me tell you about RISC.
You were really creepy when you did that.
Bruce the Creeper.
Okay, so look, I added this one just because I felt, I was just thinking along the lines of, we talk about all this stuff on the show, but we don't get super technical a lot of the time. And I thought, what, RISC is something where we hear it, and we've got all these sort of different chips that are RISC based at the moment. And of course, Apple have just, transitioned to RISC, and, that question about, well, is it better? Isn't it better? Who knows? And so what I thought was kind of put together a very, very oversimplified analogy of the difference between RISC and CISC. So just to put it, just to spell it out, RISC is reduced instruction set computing, and CISC is complex instruction set computing. Computers, things like Intel chips, sort of AMD chips. It is AMD, isn't it? Is it? That's no.
Yes.
Well, the competitors to Intel, the ones that the knockoffs of them, they're all complex instruction set computing. And of course, in the early days of Mac, they started off with CISC, with the Motorola chip 68K and that. And then when they moved to PowerPC, they moved to RISC. And then, of course, when they made the transition from the PowerPC back to Intel, they went back from RISC to CISC. So you could look at that as a decision and think, well, I guess CISC is better then. Otherwise, wouldn't have they stayed with RISC? So I'll just, sort of quickly explain the difference between the two. And imagine you've got a situation where you have a great big pile of rocks to move from point A to point B. And what you're going to do is you're going to call in a whole stack of trucks to move those rocks. Once the trucks get there and they start loading them up, they can only put one rock on a truck at a time. What happens is when there's a really, really big rock, these trucks are really good at moving them from point A to point B. But when there's a small rock, they put the rock on the back of the truck, and it's still using the same amount of energy, it's still burning the same amount of fuel, it's still generating the same amount of heat, but it's only carting this tiny little rock from point A to point B. And so you've got a lot of this wasted energy. Now, if on the other hand, you were to be in a situation where you called for a fleet of motorcycles to move those rocks, they're fine when they're dealing with the small rocks, but when a big one comes along, they have to actually break them down into smaller rocks so that they can then be carried by multiple motorcycles. So when you look at that situation, you think, well, okay, if we're dealing with lots and lots of small rocks, then the motorbikes are the way to go. They're more energy efficient. They, so they can move those small rocks really well. But if we're dealing with lots and lots of big rocks, then the truck's the way to go.
is driving it.
Yeah, don't get Grudy to drive any of them. Okay?
That's what we call a RISC with a K chip. There's a lot of risk involved.
So essentially, what it really comes down to is the software. The way the software is, the way it's compiled to actually, work with these reduced instructions. And the fact of the matter is, and I'm sure people will want to argue this, but at the end of the day, when you are dealing with RISC chips, with stuff that is properly coded and compiled for RISC, it is definitely better than CISC. And even like Intel know that. I mean, the CISC architecture has been aging for a while. I mean, one of the things that's kept CISC alive is the fact that RAM is so cheap. So they can actually just load up with RAM, and you have lots and lots of RAM in the computer to kind of make up for the inefficiencies of a CISC architecture. If RAM hadn't got so cheap, you weren't in a situation where you could just, keep loading up your computers with RAM. And this is, of course, one of the reasons why these RISC Macs use far less RAM. They are far more efficient. And then when we look at things like the ARM chips that are around at the moment, and there are ARM chips in everything. I mean, here's a blue SCSI, and there's a little ARM chip in there. ARM, which stands for, Advanced RISC Machine.
It's actually Acorn RISC Machine.
It started off as Acorn.
Yeah.
And then and it's got an acronym in an acronym. How cool is that? So it's RISC is in. It's like I love it. I mean, it's like you can just delve into that for hours. So they're around. They're everywhere. They're very small. They're very efficient. They're very energy efficient. And so really, what it comes down to is just relating it back to what I was talking about in the beginning, is why on earth did Apple abandon RISC when they moved across to Intel? And of course, really has nothing to do with RISC itself. That has to do with the frustrations they were dealing with getting sort of manufacturers, IBM, to make sort of the chip that they needed with the speed that they needed, that they could then also put into a laptop or something like that. And of course, they were having all sorts of problems with that, in particular with that G5 being so big and so heavy. When so that thing was just generating so much heat, and you just couldn't put something like that into a laptop. Whereas Intel, of course, they had all the R&D. They were definitely ahead of the game at the time with their chips, and so that was really why Apple made that move at the time. But that really wasn't what I don't really see that as a criticism of RISC itself. It's more to do with the circumstances at the time. And I still firmly believe that RISC is a much better way to go, a much more efficient way to go. So, I think that will be, a very interesting thing to see going forward, whether other people start following Apple and, sort of producing RISC computers, and whether, Microsoft then go on and start making properly RISC compiled operating systems and all that sort of stuff. I think that'll be. So did I say Microsoft? Microsoft make make Windows for RISC. I think that will be very interesting. But anyhow, I've finished my bit. So open floor to talk about RISC and CISC now.
I have a question.
Yes.
So you said that one of the two, I forgot. ARM is way more efficient. That's why it has less RAM. Mm-hmm. So is the reason then that the RAM is not enough currently, so that it keeps swapping the hard drive? That issue that we've talked about before, is that just poorly coded software to blame?
It could be. There are a couple of things. It could be simply that it's not enough RAM. I mean, let's face it, 8 gigs isn't a lot. We're talking about the 8 gig model here. So they might need to have more. I mean, it is definitely more efficient than CISC, and it definitely requires less RAM, but it is possible that they still need more than they're currently giving it. Or it could also be to do with the way the software is made. And it could also be something that they resolve in the future. I mean, we've got to remember, this is very early days for Apple in terms of, sort of these, M1 computers. And they've had them inside their, sort of their iPads and their phones for a long time. But for them to now be rolling them out using, OS 10 as opposed to iOS, or OS 11, I should say, that's something that could just be something that needs to be refined and improved. That I can't really say for certain. I'm just hypothesizing.
Okay, gotcha.
Anyone? I haven't even looked at the chat. Has anyone been just pointing out that I'm just talking garbage?
20 people left while you were talking.
I mean, it is really impressive, though, that these RISC processors can do so much with so little resources. I mean, you look at things back in the day, like the Newton ran on a RISC chip, and even modern video game consoles like the PlayStation series run on PowerPC based chips and all this stuff. And it's stuff like that just really shows that maybe they are good for a specific audience, when it's tuned in this way. But I mean, as you're seeing with the M1 Max, I mean, as long as the software and the hardware are there to support the architecture of that chip, I don't think there's really a limitation to what can be done with these things anymore. I mean, they've gotten so fast and so complex. It's insane.
Well,
the Raspberry Pi is a very good example as well. For those who might have dabbled with the old Raspberry Pi, it's a very, very inexpensive computer you can buy, and it's based on sort of the ARM chip, and they're amazing little things. I mean, sort of I would sort of suggest, I mean, I wish they existed when I was getting into computers back in the day. I mean, the idea that, you could have someone that might be interested in computers can go and grab one of those for really, really cheap, just connect it up via HDMI to whatever, your television monitor, whatever, and, just get in there and start programming. I mean, they're absolutely fantastic, and you can do incredible things, with them.
Well, if we would have had these chips back when they were transitioning away from the original Power PCs, we probably never would have seen the Intel era. We probably would have just still stayed in the RISC era, which would have been ideal, because then we wouldn't have had all the bloated universal code like we are dealing with once again.
Yes. But then we wouldn't have had the Mac Pro either.
We might have had something better.
True. This is true.
I mean, I look. Who knows if this was the case, but I reckon if there was a RISC chip at the time that was sort of lightweight enough, and when I say lightweight, I mean like how much energy it used and how much heat it created, to put into a laptop, that was offering comparable speed to what Intel had in its offering, I think Apple would have stayed with RISC. But they couldn't. I mean, they couldn't stick a G5 chip into a laptop. I mean, despite the fact we would have loved to have seen it, they just couldn't. They couldn't have done it back then.
I would have loved a liquid-cooled laptop. Imagine taking that to school like, oh man, it's late.
It's interesting because in one of Ken's videos, he has the collector. He goes by the name of Hap, and he has a prototype PowerBook G4, and on the sticker there's it says like what processor was installed in the prototype, and I believe it says that there was a dual processor configuration in the PowerBook, which is sort of you think of, okay, well that never came out obviously, but I'm sure they had, it must have been a thick PowerBook. I'm sure they tried as hard as they could to get a G5 into a portable form factor, but the power consumption, I'm sure, just was not playing nice.
Well, I do believe that they actually did mock up a G5, but the problem is you're talking about a server class processor. I mean, the G5 was just an IBM Power 5 processor they pulled off the shelf and threw it in a Mac. It's all it was, and it wasn't optimized for desktop use like the G4, the G3, and I think so. But yeah, it was impossible to keep the thing cool because it would have toasted everything within 50 feet of it, inside of a laptop, not to mention itself. So, and I think it was like this thick with the heat sinks and everything in it. So, but yeah, it's just, it's a shame that the processors weren't more developed back in the day to keep us from having to go to the whole Intel route. So
yeah, which now turned out just to be a phase.
Yeah, yeah, we've gone full circle twice now.
Yeah.
So I missed part of Jay's question before, but is the decision to limit the upgradability of RAM and and SSDs in these M1 Macs is that tied to using RISC processors, do you think?
No, I don't think it's tied to. I think that's probably more tied to manufacturing costs.
Yeah.
I think they, Apple, sort of being Apple, are just looking to be able to. And I mean, look, having the RAM on the die is definitely going to make the RAM accessing way faster. There's no doubt about that. I mean, there's a speed aspect in that, and that to some extent is what they've been doing with the iPhones and iPads for a long time. But we haven't cared about it for those because we don't obsess about how much RAM those things have. All we care about is that they work. Might care about storage space for keeping all our songs and movies and stuff like that. But when it comes to the actual RAM on those things, it's not something that you consider at all. It's just as long as it does the job. And So they've kind of been doing that, for a long time, and I think putting the RAM on the die, is very good for speed and efficiency. But I also think it really cuts their manufacturing costs, and that's one of the reasons why Apple is as large and wealthy as it is now.
Yeah. Okay.
They're very good at cutting manufacturing costs.
Oh yeah, guaranteed. It's a cost. It's strictly cost, and I'm sure it's mostly cost, but I know some of it's got to be speed too, because basically the memory's directly wired right into the processor, so there's nothing in the middle. It's just like in and out. So,
but because the
one
other thing
heck of a PDS slot.
Yeah, exactly.
One of the things we need to sort of get into the to the swing of as consumers is we have to stop kind of thinking in CISC terms, and Apple have been trying to do that. As they've been releasing these things, they haven't been telling us the megahertz or the gigahertz or whatever about the speed of these chips. They haven't been getting that. They've been very deliberately coy about exactly what powers these things. And I honestly don't believe that's them being sneaky or anything. I think it's because they know that when people look at those figures in CISC terms, they seem like they're not particularly powerful. But then when they go in and they run the real world tests on them, they obliterate the CISC systems, because we have to start thinking in a different way. If we're talking about RISC, we got to start thinking about the fact that 16 gigs of RAM is enough because of the way they've been designed to run. Or sort of the idea that whatever the sort of the clock speed of the processor might be, if you're comparing it to a CISC chip, it's not an equal comparison. You've just got to compare these things in benchmarks and stuff like that. So that's something that kind of we as consumers have to start getting used to as we go into this this kind of RISC world. That it's a very different way of thinking. We've been thinking CISC for so long in terms of speeds and in terms of cores and in terms of RAM and stuff like that, and we've got to start thinking differently.
Yeah. Okay.
Think different.
I mean, if you go away from like, oh, this is 2 gigahertz or this is 3 gigahertz or whatever, then it's just Apple saying, well, this is 2 times as fast as the other one.
Yes.
And they want you to think of in terms of like the iPhone series, like, oh, this is the A10 versus the A11, and they're telling you that it's the next generation or whatever, rather than when you do the benchmarks on it and go like 20% faster. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. But we all like numbers to back up our our thoughts about purchases, don't we? Like, I was really disappointed when Apple came out with the M1s and they're like, oh, it's 10 times faster than something else, but we're not going to tell you what the other thing, the other thing is.
We're going to give you a chart
figures,
with no
man.
numbers.
Yeah, exactly. Or I'm not going to go down and buy a car and, and they're saying, well, it's really fast. We're not telling you what the horsepower is, but it's really fast. Like, great. Awesome.
I think it's smart because pressure from the public, what was it, early 2000s? When Intel was so much faster than PowerPC by the numbers. Intel had a 4 gigahertz. Apple was just scratching 2.5 gigahertz. And they did this whole video with the pipelines and how the PowerPC was faster than the Intel, even though the gigahertz were more. And that pressure was a huge part of the reason that they abandoned PowerPC. They just, every meeting the G5 team had with Steve Jobs, they got yelled at. We need more clock speed. We need more clock speeds. Well, but it's faster. I don't care. The public wants a higher number of clock speed. So now for them to shut up about it, it might be slower. It might be faster. We don't know. Or, the number might be higher or lower. We don't know. But all the reviews say it's faster. So they might never put a number on that. I know.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of feel like you when you're comparing these things, you have to compare apples with apples and oranges with oranges. I suspect that in the future we will start to see speed comparisons based within the RISC architecture. So with this being the first, it's kind of they've as I say, they've been very, very kind of non-specific. But with the next one that comes out, they'll be able to compare it to the first one. So they'll be able to say, hey, this M2 or M1X or whatever it is now 4 times faster than the M1, and just kind of leave the comparisons with the Intel chips out of it. I suspect that's probably what they're going to do moving forward.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, I'm finished.
So anything else anybody wants to add, subtract?
I've paid no attention to the chat whatsoever, so if there was anything interesting in there, I missed it, so I apologise.
Oh, yes, Graham, you're correct. I probably said Power 5. It's actually modified Power 4 processor. Excuse me.
Well, I don't have anything to add on this, but I do want to squeeze in a topic that is unlisted.
No unlisted topics. None. Absolutely not.
All right, so
the fact that he said
Just
nothing
go ahead
about
anyway,
it beforehand.
I'm gonna.
Okay, so what do you got, Jay?
I just want to touch on the last round of Apple iOS updates real quick. I think it was last week, where they added this thing to iOS where if you're wearing a mask and you want to unlock your phone, your watch can help you do it. It works really well, but I want to, and GT, if he's in the chat, yeah, he's there. He could back me up on this. It's very nifty, and it works really well, but I just want to mention that it has nothing to do with security. If you are wearing a mask and your Apple Watch and you want to unlock your phone, you get a message on your watch say, hey, I unlocked the phone for you. Okay, great. It works. If someone conks you over the head, takes your phone, points it at their own face while they're wearing a mask, it will unlock it too. You can literally point the phone at anyone with a mask and it will unlock. It doesn't care that you have glasses, eye, mustache. It doesn't care about any of that. If it detects a mask, it figures out it thinks it's you, and your watch will gladly unlock the phone for you. So whatever security there was in Face ID has been completely shattered with the whole mask wearing thing. So I just wanted to put that public service announcement out there. If you care about security and you're, I don't know, maybe you live in New York City or some other place, you really don't want to own an iPhone, you might want to go back to the traditional passcode and just disable Face ID completely.
Don't retrain your iPhone.
But this is only if you have a watch, right?
Correct.
Right. Okay. All right.
Yep. So
I'm kind of grateful that I don't have a watch at this point now. Got to tell you.
Although, Greg,
Well, I think you can disable it, can't you?
yeah, you don't have to turn it on. It's optional.
GT says he thinks they fixed it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe they did.
I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
I would try it, but I don't
My
have
phone
a
doesn't
watch,
recognize
so
anyway, so.
I see Steve talking a lot, but I don't hear any voice.
that's okay. Nobody wants to
Push
listen
the
to him
button.
anyway.
Nobody does. I'll shut up.
All right. So now we got Jay's impromptu topic out of the way, which is very good, by the way. Now we're going to talk. Now we're going to go back down under, and we're going to talk about AirTags in Australia. For some reason, which I don't fully understand, but I'm sure Bruce does since he lives there, and I'm sure Madeline does too, they might be banning AirTags in Australia. So we're going to turn it once again to the Aussie duo on the side of the screen, and we're going to let them explain to us Yanks why AirTags might be banned in Australia.
Sorry, I'll just pop in here quickly, Bruce.
Oh, you're fine.
It's interesting that the story broke on Tuesday or Wednesday of this week, and the media outlets were touting it as Apple bans AirTags in Australia due to safety concerns over button batteries, right? So I pricked my ears up because I've just paid for some of them, and Apple, in their ultimate wisdom, are sending me different coloured Belkin key tags separate. So I've received one of these so far, and the others are scheduled to arrive over the course of the next 4 weeks. So don't get me started on Apple's shipping policy with that one, because is this a green company's behaviour? Really?
It's green by having them take paddle boats to get it to you. It's very green.
So, but that's another story entirely. The news broke about them banning them, but it was actually some of the stores. So, for example, Officeworks in Australia do them from their shelves. Officeworks, as I said before, is similar to Office Max in the States. And then a couple of other retailers followed suit, like JB Hi-Fi and so on. But they haven't actually been withdrawn from sale.
No.
So
it's sort of a self-imposed thing that these stores have actually put in place. They're saying, we think this button battery is too easy to access and is a safety hazard for children opening them up and swallowing the battery. And so
why
therefore,
wouldn't they just swallow the whole damn AirTag? It's the same size. I don't get it.
Then you could track your child very easily. Right? You don't have to worry about a key ring. You don't have to worry about Velcro. Just have them swallow it. It's water resistant. You're going to be fine.
Yeah, I mean, it's at this stage of the ACCC, which is the Australian Consumer and something. It's 3 C's. They have, at this stage, they have not said, they've sort of said they're watching the situation. They are not prepared to actually ban it or mean that it doesn't pass Australian standards. And I find it very interesting that a company like Officeworks, which is just basically a great big station, would actually sort of get all high and mighty about this and say, we're not going to sell this because it's dangerous, when essentially it hasn't failed any Australian standards or anything like that. I get very frustrated by this, because it's sort of essentially someone saying, I want you to protect my child. I don't have time to protect my own child, so I want you to do it for me. And let's face it, when it comes to kids putting things in their mouths that they're not meant to do, that's just the role of a parent to keep an eye on them, sort of to make sure that, because, whether it's a battery or whether it's something else, or a mothball or something, something that's toxic, or, it looks cool and, it looks bright and want to stick it in your mouth. I mean, a battery is just one of those things, and I just sort of feel like this idea that you need to sort of protect my child from swallowing a battery. It's I get very frustrated by that. It's that real nanny state attitude. But
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what's going on.
If the AirTags are on a keychain or affixated to a device or something, I would say it would take considerable effort to remove said AirTag and then remove the battery compartment and then swallow the battery.
How does one spell asphyxiated? Just one.
Yeah, I was just Googling that. I'm like, I don't think that's the word. We got asphyxiate or affiliate.
Apple's gonna build a neck bracelet that's gonna have an AirTag detector on it. So when your child gets close enough to an AirTag, it's gonna go bam, make a bunch of noise. That's gonna be their solution for this.
Yeah, I mean, look, as I say, I mean, we'll wait and see what happens with the with whether the Australian government decides to get involved. But I mean, I just bought a 4-pack yesterday from Apple. It's no warnings or nothing saying that they can't deliver it or anything like that. It's just like, well, you'll get it next week. It's like, okay, great.
This is going to be the new GameStop stock. Selling AirTags in Australia. $500 for a 4-pack.
So Jay,
as a matter of interest, Bruce, how soon are they being... Sorry.
No, it's okay. No, go on.
As a matter of interest, Bruce, how soon are they being delivered to you?
They said I would get them on Wednesday next week.
Are you serious?
I don't know. I might be joking. Let me check.
I have to check mine. I think mine are super delayed.
It might be full of crap. Let me check.
I ordered one AirTag on the 30th when they became available, and I was impatient. I really wanted to play with it more so, I wanted to see if they were serialized. So I paid $5 extra for courier drop-off the next day. Got it. Immediately lost it because my wife, it was for her. And they work really well. It's I 3D printed a little holder that I put on a keychain, and it's as advertised. You say, hey, find my keys. The keys go ping ping ping. It's a little. Of course, there's no powerful speaker in that thing. So if it happens to be under a pillow or buried under a coat, you're probably not going to hear it. But if it's on the table or under the couch or something, you'll find it. And it's pretty neat.
Mine are not being delivered until mid next month.
Okay, so Monday week they've said to me.
Right.
So yeah. So just over a week.
Did you order them engraved, Madeline?
Yes, I did.
That takes long here too. It takes about a month to deliver.
There's your mistake right there.
Yeah.
Well, I personalized mine too, and it says it's delivered May 21st to May 27th. So, not next week, but or the week after, but sometime around that.
And just while we're talking about the AirTags, very quickly, I don't know if anyone has seen the iFixit video where they've basically shown where there is a safe location on the side of it for you to drill a hole if you want to put a keyring loop through. So they basically have said that little, circular bit of plastic around the outside, large parts of it don't have anything in it, so that if you're very careful with a drill, you can drill a hole through it. And, sort of make it so that you don't necessarily need to have one of the Apple keyring holdery thingies. So I'm not saying that it's something that I would recommend, but it's just interesting that that's something that has come out. So now there are going to be a whole bunch of people drilling holes in their AirTags.
Battery juice in their face and, I drilled in the wrong place.
Yeah, how many people are going to try and get Apple Care to repair or return an AirTag that they drilled?
Yeah, if you drill in the right place, there's a headphone socket in there.
Yeah, that's how you get it back on the iPhone too, right?
So anyhow, we'll keep you up to date with what goes on with these AirTags here in Australia. But to be honest, based on what I've read so far, I suspect they're going to sell, and I don't think they're going to be taken off the market. And we'll see what happens with the Officeworks and JB Hi-Fi. JB Hi-Fi is like a big electronics retailer out here, and we'll just see whether they decide to put them back on the shelves later on, or whether they sort of stick to it and leave them banned from their shops.
So Jay, are you going to be 3D printing some AirTag holders with the Mac Yak logo on it for everybody?
I could. I'll sell them in Australia for $500 a pop.
Yes, what's the point in selling a holder if you can't get an AirTag?
Because that means you're halfway there.
Just while we're on this subject, what do you guys think about AirTags and privacy concerns? Because Bruce sent me a really interesting message, in our group chat on our phones.
It was meant as a joke, of course.
I know it was meant as a joke, and I thought it was quite funny. But then I thought, in kind of, I don't know, domestic violence situations, or in, I don't know, situations with people, do you think there's going to be a problem with, sticking an AirTag on the bottom of a random stranger's car to be able to track them? Or I don't know. What do you guys think about?
There's apparently a feature where it detects that you have an AirTag that's been sort of ghosting your location, and it knows that it's not assigned to your Apple ID, and it alerts you to that. The details of the specifics of the timing have not been released because Apple thinks that info would be a detriment to anybody who's, it would be negative to anybody who is trying to. Bad information would be benefit the criminals. What I'm trying to say in this case, when they're trying to track whatever. But it seems like they took that into account. I would have been very surprised if they didn't think of that. Whether how well it works is.
There are right now. I can just walk up to my local electronics retailer and buy a little tracking unit. you have to buy a SIM card. You have to get a SIM card with a, sort of with a, a phone company, a communications company, and you basically just get a SIM card and you pop that into these things, and then you can stick them in the trunk of a car or into the wheel well of a car or something like that, and you can get, sort of notifications of where that person is. You can track them on a computer. The people use them for things like hire cars, and so that when someone hires a car, they can see exactly where the person's taken that car if they've broken the rules or something like that. And so that exists now. So I mean, I guess the difference with an AirTag, of course, it's much smaller, much easier to conceal. So I guess those concerns are there with that. But the point I'm making is that sort of tracking technology has existed for a while, and people could have been sort of taking advantage of that, all that time. So it's not necessarily something new. It's something that's cheaper, kind of more consumer level and very, very small. But I do like the idea that they have already thought of that at Apple, and I have put a feature in there to to try and stop people tracking people they shouldn't be tracking.
Well, that's why
absolutely.
I think that kids eating an AirTag is a good thing. It would make an Amber Alert so much easier. Like, hey, spotted here. Same.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm not being a naysayer about them whatsoever. I think they're going to change my life in terms of, being able to find things like my keys and, and purse, for example. So bring it on.
Yes.
What kind of bums me out is that you can only pair one AirTag to one iCloud or Apple ID. It's like, hey, we have one car, we use the same keys. I want to be able to find the keys too. So I want that AirTag in my Find My app as well, but that's not going to happen.
I think I read somewhere that one question about that, they're looking into something with the, because they have the, what is it? The iCloud family, or what do they call it? Family share or something like that?
Yeah.
So that from what I saw, and it could just be speculation, that there's going to be some update to allow it. I would be surprised if they didn't pursue that, Jay, because that scenario I could see exactly a parent wanting to know where their kids' things are, and the kid is like, let's say they have their own iCloud account for their iPod Touch or whatever, but they want to know where the kid's backpack is or something. So
yeah, and it's very easy to secure because the original owner would have to give permission on their phone to share it or something. I think it would. Of course, they would sell less, so they might stall on a feature like that indefinitely.
Yeah. And I think the limit of AirTags per Apple ID, I think, is 16. I don't know why there's such a limit right now, but I'm sure they'll adjust. I mean, this is early days, so I'm sure they'll change things.
So anyone in the chat have AirTags? I wasn't really paying attention, to be honest.
I'm waiting for mine.
Your wife
exciting. I'm going to put one on my keys because I always lose my damn keys.
I have not bought them yet because I could really use a set of 4 of them, but I know it's a discounted price for 4 of them, but I just can't justify spending $100 on them.
Okay, well, I should go halvesies with somebody.
If I buy one, then I won't know what to put it on.
Run your taps.
It's interesting because I bought one of these. I've sort of mentioned it in one of the show before. It's a tracker or something like that, and the issue I had with this was that it never seemed to work when I needed it. I could, connect it all up and press the button and, locate things. Oh, wow, that's cool. Look at the way it does that. Then when I would actually lose my wallet and I would go to find it with my phone, this thing would not be working for whatever reason. I don't know what it was. So I'll be very interested to see with the Apple AirTags whether they have got it right, whether they've got it so that, they do actually work when you need them. But more importantly, will it survive being in my wallet? This is not the one that was in my wallet. The one that was in my wallet is in pieces. So we'll just see.
I'm going to grab mine. I'll show you.
That camera cover really doesn't work all that well.
No, I can still see his legs.
It's not great.
It is. I
He's
don't
not wearing
think it's
any shoes.
waterproof, but it is splash-proof or something. So I think it will survive the funnel web spiders and all the crap that you have crawling in there. You might be all right.
Spiders have no interest in them.
Mine is beat to hell. It's all scuffed. There's some dents in it. The battery compartment doesn't really come off anymore, and it's just never freaking worked when I needed to, just like you, Bruce.
Yet you both still have it. Why?
Well,
It's still there.
Yeah, it's. I don't like throwing things away like that. It's.
Yeah, that's why I have a bag of old PRAM batteries, just like Bruce.
And dead video cards.
I have working PRAM batteries, Steve.
Oh
my god.
Oh dear, oh dear. It's got to this already.
Yeah, but how many are from West Germany?
collectibles.
I think I have 4 of those, and 3 of them still hold a charge.
That's amazing.
It is.
Excellent German
I can't
engineering
believe
right there.
West German engineering.
Oh my god.
PRAM batteries.
Those East Germans couldn't design the Wert for paper bag. Because they're communists.
Oh my god.
Just had to add that.
Well, they were.
Dana, you are ordered to talk like that for the rest of the show.
Do that. I could do that.
All right.
Are
we ready to talk
Mr.
about?
Controller, what's next?
Are we ready to talk about Apple versus Epic?
Why don't we do Eat Quack first?
You want to do eat?
I have no. Yeah, let's
Fine,
quack it.
let's eat. I like eating.
Quack it.
Eat.
Quack it. Let's do the game.
Quack. All right,
Say it in your accent, Dana.
We are playing the Eat Quack game. You will all pay attention. And give us your papers.
Oh my god.
Yeah, you definitely have to keep that up for the next hour.
Oh my god. All right, so we need some suggestions here, people. This is all up to y'all in the chat.
Yep.
Come on, throw
We'll
something
put it
at
up
us.
to you guys. We're too lazy.
Yeah.
Have you ever swallowed an AirTag?
Eat.
Quack.
I nibbled on it. Does that count?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
I guess we could sort of talk a little bit about the topic if we're not getting some suggestions, or should we just be patient?
We should be patient. We have half
We
an
don't have
hour.
anything better to do.
Wait, why
Well,
is
everyone's
it
just saying,
Axiomatic Raptor has actually put in a good one. I can actually turn this into an Eat Quack. Eat Quack on this one. Have you ever installed anything into a computer without testing to see whether it worked first?
Eat.
I can definitely eat that.
Then again, there's plenty of things you cannot test until it is in the computer.
This is true. This is true.
and here's a follow-up deep quack. Have you learned your lesson from doing so and prevented yourself from doing that in the future?
Have you ever been overconfident and put the whole thing back together again?
Oh my
done
god.
up all the screws, got the whole thing all completely and totally back together, then tested it, then realized that it didn't work, and then realized how stupid you were.
Hey, Bruce, I'll do you one better than that. I actually replaced the engine in a car with a bad one, and didn't know it until the engine was in.
Oh, no.
The guy supplied the engine to me. I pulled the old engine out, put the new engine in, hooked everything up, and we're talking 8 to 10 hours of work here.
Oh yeah.
Fired it all up. The head gasket was blown. I was
Oh,
like,
my God.
oh my god, are you kidding me? I told the guy, I said, I ain't not pulling that engine out again.
Don't talk to me about blown head gaskets, please. It triggers me. And we had like 4 Eep Quacks in a row, so I have no idea which Eep and Quack belonged to which.
Yeah, but they remember.
So we got Sean. Have you ever changed the language on something and not been able to change it back?
Yes.
Quack.
Oh, yes.
I can't say.
I eventually figured it out.
I put my iPad on Swahili or something one time. when I was setting up one of my iPads. I have no idea what language it was. It wasn't Spanish, German, or Italian, because those I could actually kind of understand enough to change the language. No, this was something totally off the wall, and I had to totally redo the iPad.
Here's one. Have you ever... Well, I'll reformulate it a little bit. Have you ever changed your screen resolution to something too incompatible and been unable to change it back?
Yeah.
Oh, humongous heap on that one.
That
Boy,
was
how
That was
frustrating
real
is
easy back in the
Yeah.
90s.
that was my first
That's the
experience
whole reason-
understanding monitor resolutions. I tried to launch the Doom demo on a Macintosh 7100, and my dad had to open it up and remove
God.
the video card and fuss around with it just to get it to go back to the resolution.
Oh no.
Uh,
Yeah, nowadays if you
it's
do
Mac
that,
OS
then
lies
it-
too, because I've never done this on Windows because I don't use Windows. But on the Mac it says, "Oh, wait 15 seconds and it'll change back," or hit escape and it'll
Timer
change
now.
back, and that never works. It never works.
It doesn't.
Works for
Oh,
me.
wow.
Yeah,
Mine
well, and you also have to remember that was something that was brought in with System 9 or 8 or something. I mean, if you're in an old System 7 situation and you happen to find yourself changing the resolution to something that's not supported, you can't just sit there and wait for it to change back.
Yeah.
You're there with
Yes,
the mouse
some Power Macs
trying
actually
to move
had.
it.
Yeah. Some Power Macs actually had, I think, some keyboard combinations on startup, but it was very late into the game. I remember with one of the Macs that had the video out, what was like the 660 AV or one of those, I had it change the resolution, and it was too big or too small for the TV, so it was all flickery and it was like it was scrolling, and it was like a strobing effect. You couldn't, it was unusable, the image.
Yeah.
So like. But Bruce,
Find
just
the
get the
mouse
cursor, and you're just trying to like get to the control.
you're looking at it like
this.
Menu, and you're like, "Is that it?"
Yeah.
We have our meme, people. We have our meme. I have one more Eep Quack from Nick, or Axiomatic Raptor. Pulled apart a machine, got distracted, and it's still in pieces waiting to be rebuilt. I'm gonna just pretend I Eep 500 times here. Eep!
Yeah.
Sorry about your PowerBook, Mike.
Oh, yeah.
yeah, I'm going to say, I've been over to your house twice now, and my PowerBook's still in pieces.
I've been
That whole wall,
Yeah.
this machine
Jay's
says
entire
have to be put
office is-
together.
Jay's office needs to be put together.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Just on that resolution thing, one of the things that I don't know if you've ever experienced this, so this just drives me bonkers. You have a computer that, like, you've got onto the wrong resolution. It's out of sync, you can't, and the monitor just doesn't even support it. So you go and you zap the PRAM, and you start up, and then you get the welcome screen. You go, yeah, I've got it. That's awesome. And you're there in 640 by 480, and then a couple of seconds later, it flicks back onto the one that you had, and it's gone again.
Yeah. Oh, here's one real quick. Eat Quack if you thought that bag behind Jay's chair is a chicken.
Chicken?
Now
It
that you
looks
say
like
that,
a
I
chicken.
can't be unseen.
I know. Bruce is
That
the one with
is a
chickens.
fire extinguisher with
I
a
know.
plastic bag on it full of
I know.
microfiber cloths that still need to be washed.
but when I just scan past the screen, it looks like a chicken standing behind you.
Okay, you're weird.
It does
Moving
actually.
on.
We knew that.
Oh boy.
Eat Quack if
Chicken,
you've
I
ever
don't see.
electrocuted yourself on a power supply.
Whack.
Quack.
Not yet.
It's amazing.
I
You
know.
just tried to set the house on fire.
Have you
No,
ever
that
set
was a
off
soldering iron's fault?
Justin says, have you ever set off a smoke detector or carbon monoxide detector working on a computer?
Whack.
No, I've
Quack.
never-
Can't say I have.
Cooking, yes. Computers, no.
I don't even know if mine has a battery in it.
Ooh,
It's been 3 years. I should probably check.
probably.
Yeah.
Oh goodness.
Oh boy.
So do we
All
have?
right, I think that
do
was
we
it
have
for the
anything
Eeps and
else
Quacks.
tonight?
I think we did well with that, actually, considering.
Yeah. That was a healthy round.
Have you ever offered anything for sale and then lost it when somebody showed interest in it?
Eat.
Oh,
I'll crack that. But I know I've offered something for
This
sale,
is
and then when I
aimed at-
realised
this-
that no
this-
one was interested in it, I pulled it off again.
This was aimed at somebody specific.
Mike was breaking up really bad, so I didn't hear the question. So let's move on to Apple and Epic.
Jay's just being polite.
Oh gosh. So I don't know what this is about. I didn't have a chance to read about this. This was kind of a last minute thing. So whoever threw this in and knows about it, speak your mind.
Oh, that'll be me again. Sorry.
Oh God, this guy.
I'll
This
try and be
is
quick this
becoming an Aussie-centered show tonight.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Aussies.
This relates back to a court case that started. They had the preliminary hearing last year, and essentially, for people who aren't aware of it, Epic Games, the makers of Fortnite, they basically sent an announcement to Apple saying that they were going to circumvent at the Apple payment system. So if you want your game on the App Store, you need to use Apple's payment system, and of course they take, I think it's 30% of all the sales. And basically, Epic Games, who make Fortnite, turned around and said, "No, we don't like that arrangement." And they said, "We are going to implement our own payment system in this game." They sent a letter to Tim Cook, letting him know that was going to happen. And then they said, that we will give people the choice of either using Apple Pay or using our system, but using our system will be cheaper because it won't have, we're going to pass the savings on to the customer.
Radical idea.
Yeah, needless to say, Tim Cook turned around and said, no, that will not be tolerated. And so they went ahead and did it anyway. And then Apple removed their game from the store. And so Epic has decided to sue them, and Apple have decided to countersue them. And they had the preliminary hearing in 2020, and the judge at the time basically said, he made it fairly clear that he was on Apple's side. He sort of said, you are using their system, and so therefore you just got to suck it up. I mean, it's a little bit like if you've got a shop you're setting up in a shopping centre, or a shopping mall. If you want to be in that mall, you're going to have to pay the rental fees to be in it. But of course, the difference with this is it's not a rental fee; it's a cut on every single sale made. And so that's basically what the preliminary hearing was saying. It was kind of saying, well, this is what the judge said at the time. The actual court case started on Monday this week. There's nothing really that much to report on it as such, other than saying that it's being done. It's not being done with a jury. It's just being done with a table of sort of judges, and they will sort of vote on it at the end. And there are some murmurings that. The argument is that it's a form of kind of restrictive trade. That Apple don't really have the right to, restrict, sort of this form of trade, to going only down their channel. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I still feel like Apple is probably going to win this one, only because it's their own channel. It's like, if you do not want to abide by the rules, you don't sell via our channel. But having said that, the only way to get a game onto that device is through the Apple App Store. So, one could argue that that's restrictive trade. We'll see what happens. But that's sort of where it is at the moment. We'll likely be hearing updates about it now that the court case is in full swing. But that's sort of where it is at the moment.
I would like nothing more than for Apple to lose the monopoly and for us to be able to sideload apps without having to jailbreak and all that. Excuse me. On the other hand, Epic knew the rules when they started dealing through their app store. You can't agree to them when it suits you and then start crying when you break the rules and get slapped for it. So, I don't know. I'm kind of in the middle on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they know large that they couldn't be, slapped around by Apple. And Apple is just like, no.
Yeah.
And now they're paying for it. And I think, it's ridiculous. If this was any small business person or small app maker or whatever, the same thing would have happened to them. Apple's not, saying, "Oh, we're sorry." It's like, no, they knew the rules of the system. No, we talked about this at length, but they knew the rules and they chose to try and sneak away and get a better deal. And
I believe they're doing the same thing to Google as well.
Exactly, and then that's because they expect to get away with it. They expect to be treated like a special person, and we're a special company. Our business. You have to accept our business. We deliver the best content and all this crap. It's like, no, and I'm glad Apple stood up to these. I don't care if it was Apple or Microsoft or whoever stood up to these people. But like, no, you're gonna sit your butt back down and you're gonna play the rules, play by the rules like everyone else does. It serves them right for not making a new Unreal tournament. So there you go.
You can slap us around. Wrong.
I mean, there are people that have, become self-made millionaires from selling their, creating a smart app and putting it on the App Store. And yes, Apple is, Apple is taking a cut of that. But, what you're getting for that is you are getting this huge market. Apple are essentially handing this incredibly massive market to you and then taking a cut of what you make from it. So yeah, as I say, I can definitely see the argument from both sides. I agree with Jay. It's kind of, it's frustrating when you've only got one way of getting apps on these devices, but of course this is Apple we're talking about. I mean, there shouldn't really be any surprises there. So yeah, doubt's doubt. Someone else talked.
It serves them right for
not
not making
attention to the
Unreal
chat for
tournament.
once.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, let's read the chat.
So in other
then.
words, Epic's trying to screw Apple. Apple's bigger than they are. Apple's probably going to win. So.
Yeah. I mean, unless they've got some sort of secret weapon, I would be very surprised if Epic win this one.
Yeah, I'm not.
Though
it'll
it'll be an epic battle.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry about that.
Oh Lord.
Pun intended.
So now we're going to shift the focus to the other short fat bald guy. Yeah, that one.
Which one?
That one. And we're going to discuss his favorite computer, the iCrap.
What?
We're going to discuss how the iMac changed the Mac and how it's still sticking around today, 23 years later, I think. 22,
Yeah,
23
so
later.
the original iMac was introduced May 6th of 1998. So this same day, that many years ago. And it went on sale in August, but it was introduced by Steve Jobs in May. And the iMac, with everyone, me, myself included, say it's like a throwback to the original Macintosh, because the whole idea of this machine was to be an all-in-one system with the goal of getting you online simply. Apple saw that the internet was one of the biggest reasons why somebody bought a computer, and they had a very easy-to-use system with the easy-to-use operating system with some great internet capabilities built into 8.6, etc. Well, 8.1 at the time. And they made a brand new machine just for that purpose, and it sold like hotcakes. And I think that a few of the reasons, because of the design of the machine, the price point of the machine, the features that were in it, and the ones that weren't, and it really, the argument can be made that the iMac was Apple's first step into making similar decisions for the products that they made down the road. I mean, they ditched all the legacy I/O ports. People that were not around, in the mid '90s and were around Apple computers and stuff. They may look back and be like, "Oh yeah, well, it's an iMac." No, you didn't have the serial ports. You didn't have the SCSI ports. You didn't have the ADB ports. You didn't have anything that you were used to. You had to go out and buy adapters, or you had to buy all new products. And I made videos about this stuff, so I could talk ages about it. But it really changed the way the company, I think, thought about their products. And they were just like, well, what does the customer need at this level, like for a consumer, not for a professional? And they built that machine, and the design of it was great. it did a lot of cool things. The subsequent revisions improved on that somewhat, giving you VGA output for a teacher so they could project what they were showing on a larger display or projector or anything like that. You got FireWire and you got optical drives that were a bit faster and they could do DVDs and stuff like that. But I thought the iMac was cool. I always wanted one. The second I saw it, I'm like, oh, I want that. And now I have too many of them.
I want it.
But I think it was also the start of that era of people kind of loving their computer. You know how Apple had that thing about the consumers actually love the computers they buy, because of the look of them and that. And I think the iMac was one of the, the early ones of those where because they were colourful, because they were cute, the consumers were actually, were loving their computer. I love my iMac.
It really shows the power of pretty, because I had so many people call me like, hey, I bought this new computer and it's not working. Okay, what's wrong with it? Well, just come over. None of my software is working. And these were all Windows people that bought an iMac because colors, and none of their PC software worked on it. Yeah, this is not a PC. It's a Mac. What do you mean? It's a Mac. It's a different brand. Yeah? So why doesn't it work? No. I mean, it's completely different from what you know. Oh, okay.
Oops.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, who in the chat had an iMac? I mean, or you picked up one recently. And what color? Tell us that.
Well, there was one post on Low End Mac, I think it was, yesterday or day before. Someone picked up a Bondi blue iMac, and it was pretty much flawless. It even had the I/O door and everything on it. It was perfect.
Yeah.
Nice.
My sister, we got her one when she went to college. It was a Bondi blue.
Yes. Just in case there is any doubt about it, it is pronounced Bondi. Okay.
Yeah, by who?
Yeah.
By you or the?
It was named after the beach, and it's pronounced Bondi.
Yeah. What do the natives call it?
Well,
Bondi.
Bondi.
I mean, the Australians, as I've said before, it is based on an Aboriginal word which is pronounced Bundi. But in Australia,
that's just what I'm going to call it. Bondi blue.
Which basically means waves crashing. Bundi is. This is what I've read. I mean, it could be nonsense, but Anyhow. That is.
So we got her that her freshman year of college, and she used it all the way through college, and then it just kind of went in storage, and then I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, there was a family at my mom's church that they had a daughter that was just going into high school, and they couldn't afford a computer, so we gave them the iMac. And then they moved away. So I was hoping that when they were done with it, I could get it back. But I would have bought it back. I'm not going to say, hey, give me that back. But just because it was a Bundi blue, I would have tried to buy it back. But
in the
so that's the only
studio
iMac that I've ever used. Well, she used it, but then I used it for a little bit as I was setting it up for this family and whatnot. But other than that, I've never actually owned a daily driver iMac. I have several Intel ones and 3 G3 iMacs downstairs in storage, but they take up a lot of room. So
my favorite has always been the graphite. It just looks badass. I don't care about all the colors or the flower or a damn dog pattern. Graphite is awesome.
I always really liked Ruby and Sage. Those were the two that I really liked.
I would love a Sage.
Yeah. All the others I could do without. I mean, they were just kind of generic, but there was something about the way they finished the plastic on that generation. It was really super glossy.
Yeah.
And, depending on what light it was in, it was either really a dark red or parts of it were darker than the others. And it just really was a very striking color.
I never owned one. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I actually think that that over the course of production of IMAX, the target audience for them really changed. Like when there was the original G3 IMAX, they were definitely low-end consumer electronics. You know, they were intended for the home. They were intended for people who, you know, were going to get their first internet access. And then in the 2010s, 2011, 2012, around that time, the 21-inch IMAX and the 27-inch IMAX, that line really blurred between, you know, these machines were actually appropriate for using in, you know, in a more high-end environment than the original IMAX were. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I would agree with that completely. Yeah.
Especially when they introduced the DV line. The ones that could do iMovie and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, in the studio that I worked, just initially, the iMacs were just, we had the accountant had an iMac, the receptionist had an iMac, the boss had an iMac on his desk, but all of us in production were all using towers. Every single one, we were just all using the sort of either the G3 or G4 towers. The iMacs were just kind of seen as more of a, you know, lightweight sort of thing. But I think then as time went on and they were making more powerful iMacs, you know, that did definitely change.
I never saw the appeal of the iMac because I was more of a tower expandability kind of guy. But my dad had one. At home, he had a G3 blue and white. But at his company, he used an iMac DV, so he could, you know, fiddle around with it and use it for stuff. And at some point, he sold his company, and the iMac came home and wasn't used anymore. And that's when I discovered how incredibly useful it is to bring an iMac G3 to a LAN party instead of a whole G3 blue and white tower with monitor and everything on it. And it ran Unreal Tournament very well. So I like it.
Nice.
Yeah, I think they added more functionality to it with the FireWire ports, with the optional the video output on the higher end models. And yeah, the G3 chip was pretty quick. I mean, yeah, you had the higher end machines had G4 towers and stuff, but you know, I cannot believe how long some of those machines had lasted doing the specific jobs that they were bought to do. My aunt bought one. She bought the Graphite SE1 with the 13 gig hard drive and the DVD-ROM drive, and she had that up until 2006. And the only thing it was running slow on was she bought a movie off iTunes, a TV show or whatever, and it was playing like a slideshow because it couldn't decode the MPEG-4, video file. But it did everything else okay. It was a little slow, but it still worked. And I saw that machine here, and it works fine. But it's just one of those things that I think they sold a heck of a lot of them, so they're easier to find, I guess, than some of the other machines. And now you can all collect them all for without spending thousands of dollars, hopefully.
Yeah.
Except if you try and find a Flower Power one.
You can save most old Macs by simple recapping. What are we going to do when we start losing all our CRTs? Because there are no flyback transformers and there's no alternative device that can mimic that on the market.
Yeah, why do you think I'm hoarding a bunch of
LCD.
iMacs in my garage?
Has anyone ever attempted to try and recondition those flybacks? I know of people that have brought some flyback transformers back to life from the brink. So I'll just be curious to see whether that becomes a business.
I do not know.
Good possibility.
Someone much smarter than us, hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah, get on it, Bruce.
Yeah. Fair enough.
So
iMac 4.
now we're going to wish
No,
happy
we're
birthday
talking-
to the iMac.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
Yep. And if,
my,
for those who
video
don't know, which you must be new here, Steve does a lot of live streams and videos, and none of it really matters. But he's done one video about the iMac G3, and
I've
it
done
is fantastic.
3, sir.
No, one video is worth watching.
Thanks.
So definitely check that out.
I'll paste it in the chat.
So the next thing we want to do is, what were they smoking?
What were they smoking?
And somebody's smoking some pretty good stuff in the United Kingdom right now. Because we have ourselves, somebody want to put the link. Oh, never mind, I'll do it.
Oh, by the way, links are actually working again. Hooray.
Well, hang on. Someone, why is this URL so monstrously large? Can we know?
I already
no idea.
pasted it.
Yeah, you just
eBay.
delete everything after the question mark on the eBay link, and then you're good.
I can go even shorter than that.
But for anybody who doesn't want to look, here it is. So what we're doing is we're looking at a Mac Pro Quad.
Oh, that's fancy.
2.26, 64 gigs of RAM, with 8 core. I don't know. His title doesn't make sense. Essentially, he wants 4,500 pounds plus 89 pounds 87 for shipping.
Well, it does have 8,000 gigabytes.
Yeah, okay.
That's a lot of gigabytes.
Yeah, well.
And he has it listed as a Mac Pro 4,1, 5,1, when it's actually a 1,1.
Is it?
Yeah, look at the RAM cards.
Oh,
Yeah,
it
but
is.
dude, it has this ticker going. That's fancy, man.
Oh, that's funny.
And it also has the NVIDIA GT 7300 piece of crap video card, and not the HG 5770 like it says in the description.
Yeah. Wow.
Powerful.
Is this a buy it now only, or are they bidding?
No, this is a buy it now auction.
Right now.
Well, that won't sell.
I should have just add it to my basket right now and just be done with it.
Make an offer for $300 just because of the hard drives.
Well, at least the shipping is reasonable.
Yeah, actually, the shipping is pretty reasonable. Problem is, it'd probably end up coming overseas in a big aluminum chunk. So if I bought it, I'd probably end up getting a big aluminum brick delivered to my doorstep.
I think Sean's onto something. This ad is just missing some polka dots.
English Goldman.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. I like that.
Goldman.
Dana, do your accent. Come on.
Goldman. Show your papers.
It sounds like you were looking for him like in a haunted house. Like, where are you?
Goldman.
So even if this was an actual 4,1 or 5,1, there's no way it's worth $4,000. There's no classic Mac Pro worth $4,000 pounds, which is actually 4,500 pounds is close to $5,200 American. So, yeah, this guy's definitely smoking some crack. That's all I gotta say.
Well, he obviously places a very large value on his own work, which is fine. Everybody needs to get paid, but it's seller refurbished, so he probably dusted it off and thinks like, "Ooh, I spent an hour on this. That's worth 2,000 pounds." Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, all things says, I'm very proud to have a bad feedback from Goldman.
Oh my god.
That's funny.
Okay, I'm going to post the next one here into the chat.
So we got one more here. This one is interesting. So I'm sure this one came from Bruce.
Mm-hmm.
This one's listed for $11,400 Australian, or $8,836 US.
Oh.
Now, it's located in France, so I don't know why it's necessarily coming up in Australian dollars, but never mind. But what I find really interesting is that in the description, in the title, he says, never open. See photo, never open. And then when you scroll down to the status, it says, open box. It's an item in excellent condition now. The item maybe missing the original packaging. And he said he's got a few photos there. He has, just looking at the box and the horrendous state of it with all the water damage down the bottom, which I think just looks delicious.
Yeah,
that thing sat in a puddle at some point.
Yeah.
At a stage of that box, the state of that box, there was no absolutely no reason to keep that sealed. You carefully open it, because you could always retape the damn box. Every collector who's out there who would like the machine cares more about the condition of the machine inside of the box than what the heck this disgusting, moldy-looking box looks like outside. You carefully open it, you peek inside to make sure the battery hasn't exploded, and then you sell it.
Yeah.
I think he scraped some of that mold off the bottom and smoked it.
Yeah, with the styrofoam as well.
Probably. Well, if you look at this one picture right here, there is a chunk of styrofoam missing from inside the handle. I think that's what he's smoking.
Yeah.
Because
Well, at least there's a serial number on the box. You could get the you get that. That'll be useful for that at least.
I'm just going to go ahead and predict that he's not going to get what he's asking for.
no, I doubt that.
Make off.
July 11th, 2001.
And it doesn't ship to the United States.
What?
Yeah.
I can get it here in Australia. It will cost $324 for shipping, though.
Yeah.
Well, that's a bargain compared to I'm sorry, but for 11,400 Australian dollars, he should ship it anywhere in the world for free.
Yeah, I think so too.
So Retro Techie says, do you think the battery exploded in it?
Probably.
If it was in a humid environment, probably.
Yeah, I actually have to look at the batteries of some of my iMacs because I'm a little worried.
So I'm just trying to remember the conditions. So the if it's humid, it's good for the delamination of LCD screens, but if it's dry, it's good for plastics. I think that was what someone was saying to me. So essentially, the short answer is there's nowhere you can store computers where you know that it's good for everything.
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe in a vacuum.
There you go. That would work. Oh.
So I see some collectors bag their machines up. You know, they put them in plastic bags or they cover them in Glad wrap or whatever.
Yeah.
Is this a good thing to do? Is it a good thing to do?
8-Bit Guy does that because he says if there's ever, and like he just experienced here with that big flood in Texas, if anything does happen and you get a flood or something like that, it keeps the moisture out.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I've never tried it.
I would, if I were to do that, and I probably have to because I'm going to be storing some monitors in the attic. What I would probably do is put some like newspaper around them so there's not plastic on the bare plastic of the computer. Because I don't know, just especially with the humidity and the heat that happens in the climate that I'm in, I wouldn't want plastic touching plastic because it would just get mold right into it, I'm sure. I would cover it with like newspaper or cardboard or something, even if it's like loosely fitting.
I think
that
guy was using foil for some of them, wasn't he? I think he was actually using tin foil for some of them, wrapping them in tin foil and then wrapping them in plastic on top of that. Yeah, that's right. He's got that 8-Bit Guy money, you know. He's got all that internet money. Or
use an old bed sheet, cover it with a bed sheet, and then put a bag over it. I don't know.
I mean, I guess if we're talking about things that are oxidizing, if you are reducing their exposure to oxygen, then yes, that's going to help. But yeah, I mean, I really don't know. I mean, I know I've seen instances where people have had things like keyboards, and they've wrapped the keyboard cable around the keyboard, put them into storage. The plastic on the keyboard cable has oxidized up, melting divots into the plastic of the keyboard.
Yeah.
Because of the heat?
Yeah.
Because of
heat and the chemical reaction.
Some sort of reaction. Yeah.
There's a chemical reaction between the vinyl and the cable and the ABS plastic or something.
I'm gonna have to go check on mine because that's how all my Apple USB keyboards are stored right now.
So Retro
what
Tech
else are you supposed to do
new
with them? You don't want
product,
cables
the
hanging
iBag.
everywhere.
iBag.
Yeah, just a rebranded pillowcase.
Yeah, I need an iBag for my G3 all-in-one. How big is that bag going to be?
Huge.
You need the double up on the Glad hefty bags.
The iBag Plus.
The iBag Pro.
iBag Pro.
There, Retro Techie said it. iBag Pro.
There you go.
Oh.
Oh man. Well, I have. Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, now that we're done doing the iBag Pro, Steve's got some old crap coming at us, so we're going to see what he has to say. We don't really care, but we're going to see what he has to say anyway.
Oh.
I'm sorry to cut everyone off here, but I have got to get going. My apologies, folks. I have got an appointment that I need to be at, so I am going to say goodbye. What happens if I disconnect the camera or quit out of Skype? Is it going to just throw everything into
I think you're just going to freeze.
We're going to find out.
So just leave it on until you get home.
You do it.
Okay. All right. Bye, everyone.
See ya.
Hey, Bruce.
See, Bruce really didn't want to hear me talk, so that's why he left.
Boy, I wish I could do that.
Thanks, Mike. Love you too.
A little fade out. That was nice.
So, I have is a G3 all-in-one plastic as brittle as I heard. I don't know. I don't move it around. It sits on the shelf. I'm afraid to move it.
Again, it depends on where it's been stored. That bezel behind the front, plastic piece, the see-through piece. There's a beige bezel that goes around the inside that, and those are notorious for just falling apart.
Yeah, mine has a few cracks in it already, but it was free, so I'm not complaining. Anyway, so I archived something cool today. So, actually yesterday, whenever it was. And it has since disappeared from my desk. Otherwise, I'd be holding it up going, look at the thing I did. But it's all archived. So, yay, I could lose it and it's okay. So I'm going to put a link in the chat and I'll explain what the heck I did. So while I was visiting Japan on vacation a few years ago, I came across an adapter that Farallon made called the Etherwave. And if you Google it, you'll see exactly what it is. Basically, it's a little square device like this, and it converts a serial port to Ethernet. And so essentially on a PowerBook that doesn't have an Ethernet card or a PC card slot, you could get online on a Mac or a PowerBook using this device, which is great because, who wants to not have Ethernet in this day and age?
So the PowerBook 150 is not useless after all.
Exactly.
It's just slightly less
hint,
useless.
Hint, upcoming video. Hint, hint. So that's going to be something. Thank you, Mike, for the nice presentation there. So what I had done is I bought that device, but I didn't have the disk for it. But Macintosh Garden had a software that would work with it. However, a few weeks ago, I saw someone posted the manual for it on eBay, and it happened to come with a floppy. So it was like $10. I actually paid less for the device than I did for the manual. And it came with a disc. And so I was having lunch the other day, and I'm flipping through the manual. And it's a multilingual manual, which is nice, and has great diagrams. And it tells you how to power the device because there actually was a cable that came with it, or was an optional thing, where you plug in the barrel jack, and then you plug it into an ADB port, and it sucks the ADB voltage out of there and powers the device, which I don't have, but now I can build my own adapter. But I can't use it on the PowerBook 150 because it doesn't have an ADB port. But anyway, if you click on the blue box area above the emulation button on the Macintosh Garden page, you'll look at those links. That's the manual I scanned in. So I actually scanned in all 50 some odd pages of the manual. It is multilingual in most cases, so all the important instructions are in different languages. I did do the automatic character recognition on that, so you could actually search the manual, which is useful. And of course, I was able to archive the floppy disk. So version 2.2.1 is the disk that I had of this Farallon Ethernet. Yay! And version 2.2.2 was already on the Garden, so there is a superior maybe version out there already. But since I was able to archive the disk, I did that. So there you go. It has been archived.
I used to have one of these, Steve, years and years and years ago, and I could never find the software for it.
Oh.
And it really ticked me off because this was one of those things I really could have used on some of the older Macs that I had, like the SC and the Mac 2, the ones that I didn't have network cards for.
Yeah. Did you toss away the adapter?
Yeah, I'm sure I did when I moved. Maybe I didn't.
Unless you didn't, and we'll find it in a few weeks.
Well, if I didn't, it's still at my ex-wife's house.
There you go. So, yeah, I archived the disc 3 different ways because I don't know who's going to be downloading this, but there you go. Enjoy it. That manual is a fun look through. I always like seeing the diagrams they do and everything. But what was interesting is there's no system requirements on the disc or the manual. So I don't know what the earliest version of the system software
I think it's
you can
supposed.
install.
I think it's supposed to work on anything from 6 up.
Okay, I'll have to try that out then.
I'm fairly certain, if I remember correctly, it was supposed to work on. I think it was supposed to work on anything with System 6 and higher. I don't believe it'll. I don't believe it'll work with PowerPC, but then again, you wouldn't be using something like this with a Power Mac anyway.
Well, actually, there's in the manual or the README file on the disk. Actually, it does mention something about like if you're using a Power Mac or a 660 AV or something like that, that you have to switch a setting in the control panel or whatever. So this came out. This disk was has a copyright date in 1994. So this version and the subsequent versions may have had PowerPC specific stuff in there. But I'm curious if anybody ever finds the box to this. I think I've seen some on eBay. I'm curious if it ever mentions the system requirements, because that's something I'm just wondering. Oh, here's a picture of a box.
You went through all this trouble to scan and archive, and you're not even going to set up a range of Macs to test it with?
I could do that myself. So
exactly.
Well, I found
the
the auction that I did not win, but it doesn't. It just says ADB powered. All right, well.
So basically, it'll work on anything but the PowerBook 150, which is the one machine it needs to work with.
Unless you shove a battery in there and some terminals and wires, who knows? Coming soon to a Mac 84 live stream.
I'm sure that there is a way. I'm sure there's a way to externally power it. Truthfully, I mean.
Yeah, it's just 5 volts, so I'm sure you could just shove it in there. But anyway, that's the Archive Adventures. That's what I've archived. So there you go.
Neat.
Hooray!
We like it when Steve archives stuff.
Especially when I lose it so quickly after archiving. It's a good thing I did.
So is anybody doing anything?
Nope.
All right, fine.
I have a video coming out tomorrow all about a particular Macintosh SE board that somebody had sent me to try and fix up.
Lord. This ought to be interesting.
It's
a premiere or a live stream? Or?
No, it's a scripted main whatever the heck normal video. So it's
normal.
So many SE30s.
He's going to get so dressed up and actually read from his script and all kinds of fancy stuff with his 4K camera.
No.
And nobody's really going to give a shit.
there was no script involved in this, and you can tell. That's where the careful editing comes into play.
Well, Dave's here. It's time to go.
Yeah, time to go. Thank you, Dave.
Oh man.
Oh,
so we have a Discord. I don't know what Discord does or how to use it, but right there's the link at the bottom of the screen. If you're not on Discord, well, I mean, that's your thing, but you really ought to try it. It might be worth something.
Way to convince him, Mike.
So I guess the guys like to hang out there sometimes and just generally BS. I know there's a couple of good sections where you can talk and ask questions and stuff like that, and every once in a while somebody will answer you. So.
Wow, you really know how to sell it, Mike. You're fired.
All right, fine.
Oh, hey, so Jake just said in the chat he has finally ditched Windows full time, and it's the best feeling.
We knew we'd get him over to the dark side.
Jake's always had one foot on our side before.
So, on that note, that's pretty much it for the night. So, unless anybody has anything else they want to add.
So there actually is the system requirements are on page 32 of the manual. I'm apparently blind, so yay!
Yeah, we knew that.
Next week, maybe, I'm not sure, maybe GT will be back next week. He should be all moved in and settled by then.
He's not getting the computer back.
Then the audience will vote whether we're bringing GT back or if Madeline is going to replace him permanently. So stay tuned for that.
Don't be saying stuff like that, Jay. Oh my God. Oh my God.
He's like, you couldn't pay me enough. Yeah. Oh boy.
So on that note,
well,
I'm going to hang up now. I wish everybody a wonderful weekend and a good evening. And Go away. We just don't want you here anymore.
Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.